The world held its breath this morning, but for all the wrong reasons. At 2:17 a.m., Eastern Iranian state television didn't just interrupt the news, it signaled the end of a geopolitical era. A senior IRGC commander, flanked by clerics in black robes, announced a name that stunned intelligence agencies from Washington to Tel Aviv. Iran has a new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. He is 56 years old. He is the son of the man America and Israel killed just 10 days ago. And within hours of stepping into the most powerful seat in the Middle East, he delivered a message aimed directly at the heart of the United States. A message that most of the major networks are covering with a single headline before moving on. I'm not moving on, because what he actually said, the specific language buried in that inaugural address, tells you something about the next phase of this war that nobody is prepared for. I've been tracking this story since the first bombs of Operation Epic Fury fell on February 28th. I've read the leaked intelligence assessments and the verified transcripts of Mojtaba's first national address. What I found in those documents is worse than any headline you've seen today. Before we go deeper, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. This story is moving by the hour, and the next 48 hours will determine whether this war escalates into a global shockwave that hits your bank account by Monday morning. Subscribe now. I'll wait. Here is the fast version of the ghost who just seized power. Mojtaba Khamenei has spent decades operating entirely in the shadows. He never held public office. He never gave press conferences. He was described by opposition groups as the ghost who ran the IRGC's most radical intelligence wings. He is, by every account, significantly more radical than his father. But here is the detail the mainstream media missed. Mojtaba does not hold the rank of Ayatollah. In the Shia tradition of governance, the supreme leader must be the highest religious jurist. By appointing a man who lacks this rank, the traditional religious establishment has been sidelined. This isn't a religious succession. This is a military coup. The IRGC has officially taken over the Iranian state, and they have installed their most radical operative at the helm during a hot war with America. Mojtaba's first address didn't use the language of diplomacy. He used a specific Farsi phrase that translates to an irreversible, bone-shattering slap to the face of the American empire. He didn't promise to resist, he claimed victory. He listed the receipts: American soldiers dead, U.S. diplomats fleeing the region, and oil markets in absolute chaos. He ended with a maximalist war aim: the total, unconditional eviction of every American asset from the Middle East. No negotiations, no off-ramps. The peace window hasn't just closed, it's been welded shut. And while the White House went silent the moment they saw the transcript, the real nightmare is what happens when this ghost leader pulls the trigger on the global economy. If you think the empty water in the Persian Gulf is terrifying, wait until you look at the digital red ink currently hemorrhaging across the global financial markets. We need to stop talking about tactical naval maneuvers for a moment and start talking about your family's survival. Because as of 10 a.m. this morning, the Hormuz debacle officially stopped being a foreign policy story and started being a domestic economic massacre. The hard pivot from the Oval Office to your wallet is happening with a velocity that should make every single person watching this video deeply, deeply uncomfortable. Let's look at the brutal, unforgiving math that the White House is trying to spin into manageable turbulence. When the Asian markets opened today, Brent crude oil didn't just rise, it detonated. We saw the price of oil rocket from $83 a barrel to a staggering $120 in the first 6 hours of trading. That is a 44% increase in a single morning. But that number is a complete abstraction until you translate it into the street-level reality of the American supply chain. Everything, and I mean everything, in this country moves on the back of cheap diesel fuel. When the cost of energy spikes this violently, the domino effect is instantaneous and irreversible. By hour 48 of this blockade, the trucking industry in this country will face a systemic heart attack. We are already seeing reports of major logistics firms halting interstate deliveries because they simply cannot calculate their fuel surcharges fast enough to remain profitable. Amazon Prime guarantees? Gone. Just-in-time delivery for your local pharmacy? Severely compromised. But the most visceral impact is going to be at your local grocery store. We are already receiving unconfirmed reports of panic buying across the Midwest. People aren't just buying extra milk, they are clearing out shelves of non perishables because they realize that if ships aren't moving in the Middle East, the trucks aren't moving in Ohio. This is the psychological tipping point where the recession Marcus Holland swore he was managing turns into a total societal shock. And while you are worrying about the price of eggs, the global elite are moving their money in ways that should make your blood boil. If you dig into the dark pool institutional volume, we are seeing evidence of what can only be described as a financial coup. Massive anonymous sovereign wealth funds began taking out multi-billion-dollar short positions against global aviation and maritime shipping sectors nearly 48 hours before the Strait was closed. Someone knew the trap was set. Someone knew Holland's maximum pressure was a house of cards. While your 401k is being vaporized by the plunging Dow, which just dropped another 400 points in 30 minutes, the people with the leaked intelligence are positioning themselves to make a fortune off the total collapse of the American middle class. Now, let's talk about the absolute wall of lies being constructed by the White House press team. Right now, on every major network, you see the administration's talking heads looking into the camera with practiced artificial calm. They are telling you that this is a temporary disruption. They are telling you that the US Navy has total maritime superiority and will have the lanes cleared within 72 hours. They are begging you not to panic. But I've seen the leaked encrypted memos coming out of the Pentagon's J3 Operations Directorate, and the reality they are discussing in those secured rooms is the polar opposite of the script they're reading on television. While the White House is busy constructing a wall of lies, the reality on the ground in the Persian Gulf has just exposed a terrifying truth. The American military shield is no longer impenetrable. During the strikes on March 14th, the Pentagon deployed its most advanced electronic warfare suites, designed to jam every GPS frequency in the theater and render Iranian missiles blind. It should have been a turkey shoot. Instead, Iranian precision-guided munitions slammed into 27 U.S. bases with surgical accuracy. How? Because Tehran wasn't using American GPS. They've successfully transitioned their entire military guidance to China's Beidou satellite network. For the first time in history, we've seen American electronic dominance defeated in live combat by Chinese technology. This isn't just a tactical failure, it's the activation of the Shadow Alliance. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghchi just walked into an exclusive interview and dropped a bombshell that the major networks are terrified to broadcast. He officially acknowledged that Iran is receiving direct military and intelligence cooperation from both Russia and China. This isn't just about spare parts, it's about real-time satellite feeds of U.S. carrier movements and urgent replenishments of hardware. Araghchi's tone wasn't one of a man under siege. It was the tone of a man who knows he has the two most powerful adversaries of the United States standing right behind him. But the betrayal goes even deeper, hitting closer to home. Araghchi sensationally accused the United Arab Emirates of allowing the Americans to launch cruise missile attacks on Iran from residential bases on their territory. He claims the U.S. is using Emirati civilians as human shields to deter retaliation. Whether that's true or not doesn't matter as much as the result. The UAE and Saudi Arabia are already hedging their bets. They've seen the mercy shot at Karg Island and realized that American protection is a magnet for missiles, not a shield. They are moving toward a post-American security architecture before the first peace treaty is even signed. While this is happening, the U.S. is burning through its stockpile of high-end interceptors at a rate that is mathematically impossible to sustain. We are spending $2 million missiles to shoot down $10,000 drones. Beijing is sitting back, watching the American cupboard go bare of the exact munitions we would need for a conflict over Taiwan. And as the physical weapons disappear, so does our financial leverage. While we try to freeze Iranian assets, China is using its CIPS and M-Bridge systems, a parallel financial universe, to move billions in a way that is completely invisible to the U.S. Treasury. We aren't just losing a war in the desert, we are watching the total fragmentation of the global order in real time. The final act of this tragedy isn't being written in a bunker in Tehran or a situation room in DC. It is being written in the hidden ledgers of the global banking system, While you're focused on the price of a gallon of gas, the world's financial elite are staring at a force majeure event that could effectively end private banking as we know it. We are talking about the derivatives market, a massive, unregulated casino carrying a value of over $1 quadrillion. That is 10 times the size of the entire global economy, and it is built entirely on the assumption of stable energy prices. With Brent crude exploding toward $200 a barrel, the knockout clauses in these trillion-dollar financial bets are starting to trigger. If the system snaps, major Western banks don't just lose money, they face total insolvency. We are already hearing whispers that the Federal Reserve and the ECB are preparing emergency protocols that would allow banks to freeze withdrawals to prevent a systemic run. This isn't 2008. This is the entire foundation of the Western world hitting a radioactive brick wall. But the most chilling part of the Hormuz trap isn't the oil, it's the fertilizer. The Strait of Hormuz is the exit point for 30% of the world's synthetic fertilizer components. If those ships don't move, global crop yields will collapse by 40% by the next harvest. We aren't just looking at an expensive winter, we are looking at a global famine event by the end of 2026. This is the dark winter scenario that the Pentagon has simulated for decades, and we just walked right into it. The architects of Operation Epic Fury thought they were playing a high stakes game of chess to save the petrodollar. Instead, they've managed to alienate our closest allies, deplete our most critical munitions, and hand China the keys to the new global architecture. The ghost leader in Tehran isn't looking for an off ramp, he is waiting for the West to exhaust itself. He knows that in a war of attrition, the side that controls the resources and the shadow financial networks wins. So I'll leave you with the only question that matters. Are you ready for $10 gas, a global banking freeze, and a world where American influence ends at its own borders? Because the next 48 hours will decide if we are heading for a ceasefire or the final collapse of the American century. Subscribe to this channel right now, because when the Friday seismic reports drop and the banking force majeure goes public, you won't hear the truth on the evening news. You'll hear it here first. Stay alert. The world you knew is gone.